Hey everyone, welcome back to Hockey Headspace, the podcast where we dive into the mental side of hockey and life. I'm Dr. Dub, and today we're going to tackle a topic that every player, no matter what level, has experienced at one time or another, and that's losing composure. Whether it's doubt or frustration, fear, failure, we all have those moments where we just feel rattled. And in a game as fast and as intense as hockey, keeping your composure can be the difference between playing at your best and letting the game slip away. Today we're going to break down 10 ways that players can get rattled and how to overcome them so that you can build that mental toughness that you need to be composed and strong and competitive on the ice. So let's go ahead and get into it. So let's talk about the reality of imperfection. Let's face it, stuff happens. Hockey is unpredictable. No matter how much you prepare, there's going to always be moments where things just aren't going your way. And if you could play perfectly 100% of the time where you never made any mistakes, yeah, you get to be cool-headed all the time. But hey, in the real world, it doesn't happen. We all make mistakes. We face challenges, and sometimes we let our emotions get the best of us. So the first step to building that composure is to identify the things that rattle you in the first place. Once you're aware of what throws you off, then you can start working on things you can do that you know will work to keep your cool under pressure. So let's talk about some attitudes that rattle almost every player. First is doubt. When doubt creeps in, it undermines your confidence. If you start doubting your skills or your ability, especially in high-pressure situations, the more likely you are to lose your focus and get distracted. The best way to overcome doubt is, to trust your preparation, to trust the time and effort that you put into practice and getting ready for those important moments. This is how you have to believe in yourself. Second is irrational beliefs. Irrational beliefs are ways of thinking that you need to play perfect or nobody makes mistakes and certainly I can't. If you think this way, it's going to define your entire performance. Beliefs like this, they cloud your judgment. They create expectations that are nearly impossible to meet. And the way we got to move past this is that we have to challenge those beliefs by focusing on what's real. You're not perfect, and that's okay. Next, let's talk about getting stuck in the comfort zone. It's easy to play well when things are comfortable, but when you step outside of your comfort zone, that's where tension builds. This is where you start squeezing the stick. This is where things are hard. This is when you start making mistakes. And the only way you're going to get better at breaking out of the comfort zone is to increase the size of the comfort zone, right? The way you do that is you got to get out of it. You got to get into what I call the learning zone. This is where things aren't easy. You're going to mess up a fair amount, hopefully not so much that your coach is ripping you, but you got to experience that learning zone so that you can expand your comfort zone so that you can then get back into the comfort zone when you need to. Now, here's the thing about the comfort zone, and I talk about this in some of the courses that I teach, and that is the comfort zone is the spot you want to be when you need to play fast and physical and you really need to limit mistakes. We always talk about simplify the game. What we're saying is that's the time that you're okay to be in that comfort zone because I need you being fast, I need you to be intense, I need you to compete at a high level, and I need you to limit your mistakes. But for the most part, you can't stay there forever or you'll never get better. So what I like you to do is to work those three zones. The comfort zone is somewhere, you know what that is. The learning zone is a place where you're messing up a fair amount, but not so much that you don't stay with it. And in the panic zone, that third zone is a spot that you find yourself in every once in a while. It's a tough place to be. You just try to survive it, but the experience is really good. It was beyond you for that time period, but you get through it as best you can. And then now you've experienced and now you know things that you need to work on to get even better. So that comfort zone, getting stuck in that comfort zone is a big deal, and we cannot let that happen. The fourth one is a lack of emotional control. We all know that guy who chirps between plays or the opponent who loves to get under your skin, and if you can't control your emotions, your game is going to suffer. Remember, emotions are just signals. You don't let them control you. Instead, you acknowledge them. They happened. But you have to stay focused on what you need to do next. That next play mentality, that's what we have to stay into. And when we get carried away with emotional control and we're not able to regulate it like we need to, then you're going to find inconsistency in your game. You're going to find inconsistency in your performance. And the coach is going to give you that side glance saying, hey, get it together. The fifth one is worrying about what others think. When you start worrying about what your coach or your teammates or even the fans, when you worry about what they're thinking, it's going to pull your focus away from what you should be focusing on and what? And that's the game, right? That's the play that you're in. And the only thing that matters in the game is the game. It doesn't matter what other people think of you. They have zero control over unless you give that to them by worrying about what they're thinking about. All you can do is control what you can control, and what other people think, that's not going to help you. So that's one of the areas of that emotional control we talked about, that we have to learn how to recognize that we're doing it, but then get back on task. There are skills, there are strategies that we can work on to get that. But that social approval, that FOPO that we hear talked about, that fear of other people's opinions, we have to let that go. We have to recognize that it's real, but we can't let it stick to us. We have to let it go. Number 6 is being a perfectionist. Perfectionism is a trap, and we've all fallen into it. We want to be good. We want to be good at what we do. We're working hard to master this game, and it's a tough game. And so the idea of getting perfect sounds like a perfect solution. But here's the truth. Hockey is a game of mistakes. Instead of aiming for perfection, you want to aim for progress. You want to get better over and over and over, get better over time. There's two sides of perfectionism. One side, I call the good side, is that forces you to work hard. It forces you to pursue excellence. You're not satisfied with average, right? I like that. The negative side of it is, though, that now you start getting down on yourself. You think that there is a perfection that you can reach. What I promise you, the better you get, there's always going to be somebody better. And then if you're always chasing perfection, what happens is that you will get burned out. So I like the good kind. The good perfectionism means I'm going to work hard. I'm going to stay with it. Mistakes are okay because that means I'm getting better. The negative side, which is mistakes are bad, that means I'm not good enough. People are going to give up on me. That's the side of perfectionism that's just not going to work. So that's an area that people get stuck in. And again, there are strategies, there's things that people can do to work on this, but you have to recognize it before you can work on it. Number 7 is dwelling on mistakes. Mistakes happen to everyone. Even the best players in the world, they're going to make mistakes. That's just a fact. The key is that you've got to be able to learn from them and move on. You cannot hang on to them. When you dwell on mistakes, frustration builds up. That leads to emotional reactions that are basically going to throw off your game. Your focus is off, your emotions are off, and it's all because you're hanging on to mistakes that you needed to get past right away. If you don't have a strategy, if you don't have tools in your mental toolbook to be able to get past mistakes quickly, then you need to learn them. This is critical to your ongoing performance because, again, hockey's not a game of perfect. You're going to have to learn how to make mistakes and move on. Number 8 is intimidation. Sometimes we can feel intimidated by a really good team or a really good player, and if you start focusing on that thing that's intimidating you, guess where your effort is going to go? It's going to go into protection and not messing up and not letting that bad thing happen. But if you're focusing on that, what are you not focusing on? The game, your shift. And so what we have to do is we have to recognize that we're feeling intimidated by something, and we're going to have to be able to shift our mindset, our focus on what you bring to the ice. Focus on what you can do. Focus on the best parts of your game, the thing that you can bring to the ice on every shift, and focus on that. If you're focusing on those things, you can't be worried about the things that intimidate you. Again, it's recognition, it's awareness, it's being able to have a plan, a strategy of what to put in place when this happens, and that way we can ride on past intimidation. Number 9 is fear of failure. Nobody likes messing up, but fear of failure, it can cause you to play careful, cautiously, timid, not take risks, avoid going too far, going outside of that comfort zone like we talked before. The problem is that fear of failure is a trap. If you play not to make a mistake, if you play not to fail, and there's different kinds of failure, right? The failure is that I couldn't execute the skill. And there's the failure that people are going to laugh at me. People are going to think I'm not good enough. So that humiliation failure versus the skill talent failure. Bottom line is they feel the same. They act the same. They cause you to focus on the wrong things. They cause you to play careful, play not to make mistakes, not to feel those worrisome emotions, in which case you can't be your best, that you won't be your best. So we have to learn how to recognize and how to process this fear that we might feel in a moment, but then put our focus on something that lets us get back into the game. And then number 10 is, in my opinion, this is the key to being an excellent hockey player, and that is confidence. If you have a lack of confidence, then you're going to get rattled because you don't think that you've got what it takes in something. So confidence is a funny thing. Confidence is one of those things that I can be confident in one area, but not confident in another area. So it's not all or nothing. But if you don't have confidence in your game, if you don't have confidence when you go over the wall and you engage in a play that you've got a good chance of winning that play, that you actually are out there to win that play, I'm so confident that I'm going into it to win that play, then you will stay back. You'll skate on the perimeter. You'll watch. You'll not engage in a timely way. And what I mean is that guys that don't have confidence, what will happen is they arrive late to the play, right? They get there just late enough so that maybe that's the reason they weren't able to win the puck or they weren't able to make the pass. That confidence is an anchor. It's holding you back. When you're confident, think about it. When you're confident, when you know you can battle and win the battle, you go in there and you do it, right? If you're not confident, then you hold up a little bit, and you may not even recognize you're doing this. A lot of times when I talk about compete level is a function of confidence. You compete hard when you have confidence that that's going to pay off. When you don't have confidence, you tend not to compete as hard. The most frustrating thing is when a coach tells you to compete harder and you're thinking to yourself, I am competing hard. I'm competing as hard as I can. Well, that typically is a confidence issue, something that we'd have to work on, figure out, and get past. Lack of confidence is a big deal. And if you aren't ready to go out there and play at the top of your game on every shift, then we've got to work on that so that you are. Confidence is king in hockey. Confidence is the foundation of your ability to be competitive, to be persistent, and to play at the level that you know you can. So you got to acknowledge that you're human, right? Any of these attitudes, these feelings, if they feel, well, unfortunately, if they feel familiar, then guess what? You're human. Every player experiences doubt and frustration and fear of failure and social approval and all that. These are things that are common, right? The key isn't to avoid these feelings, but to know how to manage them, how to channel them when they come up. Mental toughness is about recognizing these thoughts, these feelings, and understanding how they affect your behavior, how they affect your performance. And then most importantly is about having a plan on what to do about it, how to handle them. So let's talk about some strategies for building the composure that can be affected by some of these attitudes and these feelings that come up that cause us to get rattled. Number one is awareness. I've said this over and over. Awareness is key. The first step to staying composed is being aware of what rattles you in the first place. You have to pay attention to the moments in practice or games where you start to lose focus or your attention is distracted. You get frustrated. Stop and think, what's triggering you right now? What is it that kicked off those feelings of frustration and being distracted? If you can identify the source, then we can begin to work on controlling how you respond to those things when they come up. Again, it's awareness and then having a plan for what to do. Number two is breathing and resetting. Breath work is really important. If you're not doing any kind of breath work, any kind of mindful training, then you need to start looking into that, because this is incredibly important when it comes to emotional regulation, composure, poise, all of that. And when emotions start to bubble up, you need to be able to take a deep breath and reset, right? Breathing, when you take that deep breath, it literally can calm your nervous system and allow you to refocus, get back into the present moment, and execute whatever it is that you need to do, the next play mentality. I call it win. What's important now? You have to know what's important now and being able to put your attention on it and go with it. A simple reset routine is my favorite. Is just maybe it's tapping your helmet with your stick. Tap, tap, tap. That's what I do when I kind of get my own attention, is I'll tap, tap, tap the front of my helmet. And that sort of brings me back. And now I'm focused. The tapping brought me back. And from whatever just happened or whatever my focus needs to be, I can put it there. And that tap, tap, tap is that moment where I said, take a breath, refocus, and get back in it. Number three is focus on what you can control. I mentioned this before. You can't control everything. You can't control how the refs call the game or how your opponents play or even the expectations of others, but you can control your effort, your attitude, and your focus. Keep that attention on the things that you have control over, and just, you got to learn to let go of the rest. Number four is using positive self-talk. I don't so much call it positive self-talk. I know that's sort of the common name for it. I want to get into this idea that it's constructive self-talk, because let's face it, what is most self-talk? Most self-talk is negative, right? It's that whisper in our ear saying we're not good enough and why'd you screw up, or everybody's laughing at you. It's that what I call bully chatter, right? It's garbage, and it causes you to second guess. It takes your attention away from what you should be doing. It's not helpful at all. But if we can turn that bully chatter into something that's constructive, that's got a more positive tone to it, then that's what we've got to be able to do. And again, you've got to recognize when that bully chatter is whispering in your ear, and you have to be able to acknowledge it and say, okay, I don't have time for this. I got to get back in. I can do this. I've got this, right? That's how quickly it needs to happen for you to be able to get past that negative self-talk and turn it into constructive self-talk. And then number five is you got to let go of that perfectionism, right? If you suffer from perfectionism, some people wear that as a badge of honor. Oh yeah, I'm going for perfection. But in fact, I see more issues with people that are striving for perfection than I do with the guys that are willing to just sort of go with the flow and see when bad things happen. It's like, hey, it's just part of the journey. I get that. Perfection is an illusion, right? You have to focus on progress, right? Progress, not perfection. It's those small improvements, those small wins that you get every single game, and you build on them You build on them, and then slowly but surely, you're better than you were yesterday. You're better than you were last season. Work hard to be the best that we can. So what are some actions that we can use to strengthen composure? So I want to wrap up here. I just want to talk about these 4 things that I have a lot of my players work on. And if you've got questions, if you are like, okay, that's really cool, but how do I do that? Then you need to go to my website, thecompleteplayer.com, set up a call. We'll have a chance to chat, and then we can go from there. But for now, as we wrap up this episode on 10 things that rattle most players, let's talk about what strengthens composure. Number 1 is keeping a mental journal, right? After practices or games, write down the things that happened that rattled you. And you can even write down how you handled it, good or bad. And that gives you the ability to reflect, to go back and think about how might I handle this different. Now, here's the thing about the journals. There's all kinds of journaling strategies, and I'm not going to go into that deep. Maybe we'll have an episode on journaling, but for now, just get a way to remember what happened. The thing is, when we're in the moment, our brains have it right in front of them, whatever just happened or whatever we want to remember. And we believe in our core that we will remember. Don't worry, I've got this. Don't worry, I'll remember. But we don't. It's in short-term memory, and short-term memory is crystal clear until it's not. I always say short-term memory is like writing something on a whiteboard, but then somebody comes behind you and just within 20 seconds wipes it off. So yes, it was crystal clear when you wrote it, but then 20 seconds later, it's gone. So what I need you to do is to be able to get a journal, get a notepad, get your smartphone and just tap it into the notes, but jot down how your game went. How was my game? This went well. This didn't go well. This happened. That's all you need to do. And that gives us a place to go back to when we want to review the things that we're going to work on in practice this week. So number 1 is to keep a mental journal. When you start doing that, you're going to start building habits and strategies for being extremely composed in games, but overall, you're going to be more mentally tough. Those that do are, those that don't struggle. Number 2 is practice under the type of pressure that you're going to feel in a game. A lot of times we mail practice in, we come out, we do the drills that the coach wants us to do, but did we go all out? Did we create pressure? Did we create scenarios that are similar to what we're going to experience in a game? If not, then you sort of kind of practiced, but without that pressure, it's not going to live up to what you need in a game. So practice under pressure. Take that into your practice as a deliberate intention that I'm going to practice at pace. I'm going to practice in intensity. I'm going to practice in energy and skill level, because in games, that's how you have to play. So that's number 2. Number 3 is to have a reset routine, right? A reset routine is something that you do every single time when you get distracted. It's like bing, bang, boom. Every single time you get distracted, you do this, and that brings you back to the game, right? I did the helmet tap I mentioned before. It could be a word, a mantra that you say to yourself that gives you a reset. But that reset, what it does is it gives you an opportunity to let go of what just happened and start paying attention to what's happening right now. So you're going to have a reset routine, super important. And then the last thing is you got to embrace mistakes. Nobody likes mistakes, right? But you have to recognize they're going to happen. When they do, say, yep, I got this. That happened, but I'm moving on for now. I'll come back and work on it later. You don't want to carry it around like a bowling ball for the rest of the game. You've got to be able to set it down, get back into the play, and then come back later and learn how to deal with it. All right, so composure isn't about being perfect or never feeling rattled, never feeling like you're struggling with the composure side of things. What it is, it's about recognizing the things that throw you off and then knowing how to handle them, knowing how to address them, being able to recognize and then having a plan for how to deal with them is critical. That's the key. And that's why journaling and things like that are so helpful, because it's going to make that more permanent in your ability to handle these things instead of just winging it. Doubt, fear, frustration, they're all part of the game. But when you're mentally tough, you're able to work through these things, right? You stay composed, you perform at your best, even in the toughest moments. So thanks for tuning into Hockey Headspace. If this episode resonated with you, share it with your teammates, your coaches, or anyone who could benefit from building mental toughness in their game. Remember, you've got the tools to stay composed when the pressure's on. You've just got to have them ready, and you've got to use them. So until next time, keep your head in the game and your heart in the play.